So yeah, so we are recording. So just maybe a 2-second pause so I can edit from here and then read it. And then I'll do like a 1 or 2-second pause just for editing. And then I'll go right into it.
Okay.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Hi, this is Manna Kadar from Manna Kadar Beauty, and you're listening to From the Heart with Ed Hart.
My guest today, as you heard, is my good friend Manna Kadar. I met Manna probably 10 or 12 years ago. I was working at USC. I believe you were part of the Orange County USC Alumni Association when we met. And it's one of those friendships that just kicked in right away. And we were close for many years. And then we kind of went, not our separate ways, but we hadn't seen each other in a while. And your business is booming and life has changed considerably since we last saw each other. So I'm excited to talk with you further. Manna is a successful entrepreneur. She launched her company, Manna Kadar Beauty, about 6 or 7 years ago, I believe.
Almost 10 years now.
10 years ago. Wow. Okay.
Almost.
Yeah, life goes by fast, doesn't it? She is an internationally renowned expert in the beauty industry. Talking cosmetics with her today will be fun because, you know, obviously I don't put on a whole lot of makeup, but I do have a wife and daughter here in my house who could probably do this interview better than I could. She's been recognized as one of the top 20 CEOs in industry magazines in her industry. She's a philanthropist, a wife, a mother, a business owner, and we're going to get into all of that here in just a few minutes. So Manna, welcome. Thank you for taking time to finally get together. It's been a while.
Oh my gosh, it's been too long, but like we were saying earlier, what better way to bring us together than Zoom and during this time right now?
I'm guessing you're using this technology like all of us are now to meet with clients and employees and just to kind of do your day-to-day, huh?
Yeah, we are. You know, we were already utilizing technology quite a bit. We have business internationally. So as you can imagine, you know, it's a lot easier to telecommute from Zoom to Europe versus like flying there and, you know, efficiencies of time. So we've been using this for a little while already, and we had already started to, you know, integrate everything from a cloud-based system. So when we abruptly got the message to, you know, shelter in place, et cetera, from a business perspective, it was fairly easy to just have everyone, you know, work remotely.
Sure. What were you doing that time? Walk me through the process a little bit of when you went from this might be where we're heading to now, wow, this is suddenly the new normal. What was the immediate impact and how did that transition take place for you organizationally?
Yeah, you know, we started, you know, I have factories in Asia. So, and my husband also, he has offices in Asia as well. So we saw the impact probably 6 to 8 weeks before it became like a real thing here.
As you start seeing what was happening there, sure.
Right. And so, you know, everything stopped there. Very similar to what we had here. Everything stopped, and it was kind of interesting because I was very naive to think, hey, it's just going to stay in China. You know, diseases will float around.
Yeah.
It's going to live there and not come over here or anywhere else really. So, so I really did start to see that everything did halt there. While we were still kind of moving along here. So we tried to do as much with all of our international partners and factories via, you know, email. And that started the process of, okay, it's not business as usual. So how are we going to communicate? Because, you know, a lot of what I do has to do with physical products.
Sure.
Right. So as we're innovating, we're creating new products, or customers need new items. A lot of times there's samples, there's revisions, there's formulas. You have to see and touch and feel it versus just like a, you know, a PowerPoint presentation.
Sure.
So, you know, there were a lot of delays. Things were not even able to ship out of, you know, anywhere in Asia for a while. So what we tried to do from there is really think forward to, okay, well, what can we do from a perspective of, you know, product renderings, 3D renderings, so we can communicate to our customers, this is what it's going to see, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And then, you know, emulate other formulations or whatnot. So very shortly thereafter, we kind of pushed the stop button here as well. So it's interesting, like how things are reversed. Now, I just got a package today from one of my factories with masks, with ponchos, with gloves. Like that was their like little care package.
Everything changes now, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you know, they were giving us advice on, you know, what we need to do, you know, to stay safe. So I really, you know, appreciated that package.
how have you had to reinvent? You're talking a little bit about kind of the process, and certainly some of the product renderings as opposed to the in-person experience. Now you're very obviously experiential type of a company because it's
Sure.
makeup and it's, you
Mhm.
know, the product is something they hold in their hands. What's the process of reinvention, whether it's permanent reinvention that going, wow, maybe I'm going to do things this way all the time now, or just what you've had to do in a reactionary mode that's kept things going so far for the last 4 or 5 weeks?
Yeah, so it's interesting, so I went to SC and studied finance
Right.
there, and then I went to corporate banking. And one of the things that we really focused on was concentrations of business. And in banking, I remember being a little credit analyst and like, you should not have, a company that has too many concentrations with one customer or one type of business, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And not that they were talking about pandemics, but just, generally speaking, it's better to be diversified. Well, I was starting to move into that process of, okay, let's further diversify. And every quarter when we get together for a quarterly strategy meeting, we would talk about, okay, well, we have too much here and not enough here. So we, as a company, we do a full like 360, TV shopping, e-commerce, retail, direct to consumer, all of that stuff. We do it all.
Yeah.
However, from this experience, we had too much concentration in retail. And I knew that. And I
Yeah.
knew that
Yeah. Sometimes
already.
the hand is forced, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we were already, working on it, so to speak. But this really was one of those like, okay, now what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So, it really does force your hand a bit where, within days and weeks, retail said, thank you. We'll be canceling all of our orders. We'll call you. We'll
Yeah.
call
We'll
you
get
when we're
back to
ready.
you, right? Because now they
We'll
have
call.
all of their, yeah, it's just amazing the
Yeah,
ripple effect. So I
it
read,
is. Yeah.
no, I was going to say, I think I read in that Orange County Business Journal article that your online business was about 10% of your business pre-coronavirus. I'm guessing it's probably 100% now, right?
It is not
Close to it.
100%, but it's doubled.
Okay.
So, so we are focusing, to your point,
So
like we
it's at
are.
100% growth, but it's not, yeah, I get it. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that would be too much concentration, right?
Yeah, exactly. Too much concentration again. Right.
um, what we have done is it's given us the time really to focus to online direct to consumer. So
Sure.
we have our website, so we're optimizing everything on the website right now, from photography. We have so many products. We've developed so many products. We have almost 600 products
Wow.
in the brands right now that we just didn't keep up with updating everything on the website. I'm like, we'll get to it because all
Sure.
the sales were just like flowing in the other categories. And so now we have to pause and let's get all of our amazing product on our website, not only our website, but optimizing Amazon. And there's
Sure.
so many other e-commerce platforms
Yeah.
that are direct to consumer that are certainly great ways for customers to get their hands on our products. We also do a lot of business with box companies, so like subscription box companies like the
Hmm.
Birch Boxes and the
Right.
Ipsies and those kind of companies where I've had many conversations with the founders of those companies, and they're seeing a couple of things as well. They're seeing people drop off because now it's panic mode if someone's lost their job, et cetera. Then they're canceling, non-essentials. And
Right.
then there's other people that are at home that are just like clicking away.
Yeah.
And
Shopping like crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
right,
I've
right. So
shopped.
they're
My wife probably hasn't shopped as much. Or maybe she has. I don't know. But I've probably shopped more because in between meetings or interviews or what have you, I'll go to Amazon or somewhere and click around. And it's so easy. I click on something and sometimes even same day, usually the next day, there's something on my
sure,
doorstep. It's kind of cool.
sure. It
Yeah.
is cool. So
Yeah.
so focusing on those other avenues, I really do believe that when we come out of this, um, this will have been a time where we really needed to pause.
Yeah.
We were moving so quickly as a company and growing so quickly, and I was very grateful for all of that. That it was always a conversation of, we're too busy to fill in the blank. We're too
Right.
busy to and those were important things that we were
Too busy
perhaps
to
not.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we all said it at some point in time, but
Sure.
now we have the time to do it. So
Yeah.
let's do it right. So when we're ready to hit go again, that we're like on all cylinders.
podcasts. I had, maybe one, I recorded one every couple of weeks. There was the guests calendar, there was my producer's calendar, studio time, my calendar, everything else. And now, because I can't go to my producer's studio, and if you've been watching or listening to my podcast, you can see the dramatic drop in quality, not the guests, but the quality of the actual podcast itself, because I'm doing it all. I have to. And so, but I have a little bit more time. So yeah, you're
But you're
right.
doing a great job.
Oh,
So
I appreciate that. I don't know.
don't be so critical.
Checks in the mail. So no, I'm having a blast doing it. I get to talk to some wonderful people. And one thing that I've paid close attention to in my career, especially in the last, I don't know, I'm 56. Maybe when I turned 50, this is when it really hit me, is that everybody has an incredible story. I think I knew that before, but in the last 5 to 10 years or so, I've come to the realization that everyone has an incredible story. My wife lost an uncle on the East Coast just last week. He was in his late 80s. It was sudden, but it wasn't like, he was like running marathons and then dropped. I mean, he was late 80s. But she sent me his obituary today, and I read through it, and I never knew he played minor league baseball in the New York Yankees organization, and I never knew that he was a coach, and all these things. It's like, wow, why didn't I take more time to really get to know his story? And so I think that combined with just this experience of being in my home office every day now, as we were talking about before we started the interview, we may not be having as many conversations with a lot of different people, but I think the ones that we're having are deeper.
Sure.
And it's certainly been for me greater to get to know people deeper, to hear their story, and to do these interviews. So speaking of going deep, I'd like to go back a little bit with you. So many things I want to talk about, and we'll continue to talk. When I met you, gosh, you were probably just getting started with this. If it was a decade ago, that's about, I think, when we met.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched your rise from afar, close but far. We live close, but from the outside
we
looking
were
in.
socially distant. Is that
Yeah,
word?
we were socially distancing before that was the thing to do, right? Yeah,
You're so ahead of your time, Ed.
We are. We're just pioneers, aren't we, man? We're just, we were socially distancing before it was cool. I saw that T-shirt recently online. Another thing we see online is all these T-shirts and all these memes and everything. How'd you get started in this? I mean, I know you've been in banking. I know, as you mentioned, you went to USC. I know you were born in Paris. I think I read that you were about 16 when you eventually, was that when you moved from Paris here to the States, or was there a transition somewhere between? Tell us your background and how you got started in all of this.
Yeah, so my dad is French and my mom's Chinese. So that was home base, and we left there when I was young, like 4 or 5. Then we went to Switzerland, Hong Kong, and then ended up here. I was thinking about whether I should share the domestic violence story or not. What do you think?
That's entirely up to you.
Well, okay, I'll share it just because I think
we've covered some topics on this podcast. We interviewed Denise Brown, who's a sister of Nicole Brown Simpson. One of our earliest podcast interviews. Actually, I think it was my first one we did, but about the 4th or 5th that we aired. And obviously we went deep into that topic because of the background with Nicole. So nothing's really off the radar here. It's whatever wherever the guest wants to go.
Yeah, so I think it's just interesting for background. So my mom, unfortunately my dad was very abusive domestically, verbally, sorry, I didn't mean domestically, physically, verbally. And then he also, used substances as well. So she really didn't want to have me in that situation. So, much like that movie, Not Without My Daughter, she literally left at night with very, very little, with my grandmother who was caring for me at the time. And we went to Switzerland, Hong Kong, and then ended up here. America was the place of opportunity, and that was where, I was going to have all the opportunities that she didn't have.
Was that the destination in mind in these moves was eventually to get here?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So, we grew up in a very poor area, drive-by shootings, home invasion robberies, which I was in one, home invasion robberies, access to education was there, but it wasn't great.
Not here, sure.
No, not at all. But, my mom always made sure that I had every opportunity from an educational perspective, because she knew that was the way to get out of that situation. So, every after school program I was enrolled in, every extra not extracurricular. Extracurricular from an academic perspective. She wasn't so much into our traditional extracurricular activities, but anything,
get the education.
Right. Yeah. Anything academic, sign me up. I was, I was a part of that.
That was the Chinese heritage, because that's so big, and especially in the Asian heritage, education. You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be, some sort of high-end professional, which is very common.
Sure. Like I remember one of the first things she had me do was, there's a dictionary with this big, and we started with A, and the first word, whatever. And I started to, go through every word in that dictionary and went through it and just learned, past, present, future, how to use this in a sentence, all of that stuff. So it was very tedious at the time, but I certainly, appreciated it. In the future. So when I was 16, I was working for an insurance broker in Beverly Hills, and there was one of his clients that gave me, I always dealt with him like over the phone, and he was looking to sell his retail beauty store at the time, and this store was at the Brea Mall. And so he didn't know that I was 16, but he said, "Hey, you seem like a bright young person. Do you want to take advantage of this business that I built?" And so it basically was an asset sale where I purchased this store at the Brea Mall, and I really didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I guess I was entrepreneurial even then, and willing to take a risk. So I emptied out my savings account, but my mom didn't know about it at the time, and I don't know how that I was able to do that. Really, now that I think about it. But anyways, it wasn't a ton of money, but I purchased the store and off I went.
Wow.
And, it was at a time where, the economy was doing fairly well, and I naturally was good at sales. So I was in there working every day after school, in there working, every day. And, it was 7 days a week, and retail hours are grueling. It's like, retail hours and then plus open almost every day out of the year. So, but that's where I really got my foundation of, no pun intended.
I was just going to go there. You beat me to it. Dang it. Something to take that before you did.
With learning from the consumer face to face, meeting tens of thousands of women and men, and discussing, what they're there for and what they're looking for, and seeing what was on the market and what wasn't on the market. And from that first location, I was successful, went into the next location at Main Place Mall, then Mission Viejo Mall, then UTC in San Diego, then Fashion Valley. And then, so I went all the way, down the coast, and then my last
So you weren't moving, but expanding into those areas?
Expanding into those malls. Yep. And then my last store was at Fashion Show Mall in Las Vegas. So it was a really great experience in dealing with, consumers, and dealing with, sales, marketing. And I was actually going to SC during this time too. So I was taking my business courses, and I would learn something.
It right back into work. Yeah.
It was great. It was like akin to like an MBA, experience. Or I'd learn a finance.
Your human case study is what you were all the way through.
It was great. And my professors were so forgiving, because, at any moment in time, a teeny bopper employee could say, "I'm not coming." And then with the malls, if you didn't open, you had a fine. So then here I am, like scurrying off to whatever location it was to cover for, the flaky employee.
Sure.
And my professors are like, "Okay, she's trying to make it happen. So if she,
you're already doing what you're there to get your education to do."
Right.
So you probably saw that as a really good thing, by all means.
Yeah. So eventually, let's see what happened. So 9/11 happened, unfortunately. Okay. And similar but different to what we're seeing right now, where the malls are empty because no one was purchasing like just superfluous goods. I was pretty burnt out. I'd been doing that for like 6 or 7 years at that time. And so I decided to sell. So I sold the chain of stores. And then I was 22 and too early to retire, right?
Yeah.
So I talked to one of my finance friends, and they got me a job at Comerica Bank as a financial analyst. And I had no idea what a financial analyst even did, but it sounded good.
You were probably doing it and didn't know you were doing it when you had your own business, but maybe not on the banking side, obviously.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So was in banking, the corporate banking for a while. It was such a great experience to see both sides of the coin, right? You're actually doing it as an entrepreneur and having done
Right.
that. And then this side here, you get all the numbers and the
Mhm.
figures, but then, there's a missing link there where you have to understand what that entrepreneur is going through at the time, or why they were doing certain things or why they weren't doing certain things, and paint that picture.
Yeah.
Um, for the bank, and actually now more than ever, I am so grateful for both of those experiences, because a lot of these loans require a fair amount of numbers,
Yeah.
not just the PPP loan, which is like more payroll, but the
Right.
EIDL loan. It's like financials after financials after financials, and you have to prepare them in a certain way, and you have to know what you're looking for, and you need to understand how to convey your message and your needs to this black abyss of whomever is processing these loans.
Sure.
So it's been really helpful just in the growth of my company, going from $1 to when I needed a line of credit to now this situation here where we're looking for some government funding as well.
Yeah, you've had that experience that you've had. The thing that I've been hearing from a lot of small business owners and medium and family businesses and so forth, which is the area where I predominantly live, is in the family
Mm-hmm.
business arena, is how complex and difficult this application. And we've been through it. We understand. I've looked through it and completely understand that it can be difficult. So having that banking experience and the years of business experience you have, I'm sure, has been a blessing not only for you, but knowing you the way I do, I'm sure you've probably reached out and helped a few others along the way as well. So.
You know what? I have seen so many people. It's been a time where when they say we're all in this together, I have never seen people
Yeah.
reach out and try to help one another in such great capacities. It is just, it's really heartwarming to see. Um, I belong to a group called the CEO Forum, and
Mhm.
there's about like a couple hundred members, all small business owners.
Sure.
um, and everyone's just helping everyone out. Did you know about this resource, that resource? Call this
Right.
person. Don't do this, but you should
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
You know, and all of those little things matter. Like for example, I was going to apply to two different PPP loans at the same time with different banks because I had contacts at both, and I thought, okay, whoever gets me to the finish line first.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, what I didn't know is if you were to apply to two, then you would like disqualify yourself from both.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have known that, and it's not really written anywhere. I
Yeah. That's
actually had
true.
to get
Yeah.
that
You think just
information.
apply for a bunch and hopefully one comes through. But yeah.
Right, right. And it's almost my you need to stay educated, and then you need to
Yeah.
educate everyone around you and like pay it forward, because the information out there is it's abundant, but it's also confusing,
Yeah.
and you know we can all use that help right now.
So you mentioned this is an observation I've had as well, is that it seems like as a world, especially our little world that we're in here in Southern California and really everywhere because we watch the news, but um, the people are indeed coming together. People are, going out. A good friend of ours, Tam Nguyen at Advanced Beauty College that you and I both know well, he's out distributing masks and gowns to healthcare professionals everywhere. People are converting their distilleries and their breweries into hand sanitizing manufacturing companies. People are bringing food. Wing Lamb of Wahoo's is bringing food out to
Mhm.
hospitals and healthcare workers everywhere. These are just people I know. I'm sure you know
Yeah,
others and them as well.
right.
So, with that in mind, everybody who has success in their career, whether as an entrepreneur or politician or business owner or what have you, didn't do it alone. So, take us back a little bit to some of those early people that helped you. Who are some mentors or leaders, famous or otherwise, just anybody that really played a big impact in influencing you to get you not only those stores, the guy you talked about when you were 16 and him
Mhm.
believing in you,
Mhm.
onto the professors you had at USC that you've alluded to. Is there anybody in that area that you can go deeper and talk about, or anybody since that you would look at and go, that person really was the mentor that really helped me get to where I am today? Put you on the spot there. Yeah.
That's a really good question, Ed. The thing is, there's so many people
Yeah. You're
along the
not trying to think
way.
of one. You're trying to pick which one. I can tell. But
Yeah, yeah, because like, and there hasn't been like one mentor that's like carried it through all
right.
the way. Like
Different
there's,
things. Yeah.
yeah, there's this one person that has helped make a difference in this one capacity, and has really, been instrumental. Like I would say the SCORE CEO forum that I'm in,
Yeah, I love that group.
that they're great. So it's run by, this is a group called SCORE, and it's run by retired business
Yeah,
professionals.
Service Corps of Retired Executives. Yeah, is what
Oh,
that
yep.
stands for. My dad was
Thank
part of
you.
that when he retired in the early 90s. So
It's great. When I retire, when I'm 42, then
oh,
I'm going to
nice.
be a
Wow.
part of
That's
SCORE.
10 years from now for you, right? That was a
That's
couple
right.
decades ago for me.
That's right. It's so far away.
Yeah.
But
42.
so this group, we get together on a monthly basis, and and I started with them when I had my tanning salons. I didn't even have a cosmetics company
Yeah.
yet. So I had my tanning salons, and I took the leap and I started my own cosmetics company, which I thought I knew what I was doing, but I definitely did not know what I was
Never
doing.
heard that from an entrepreneur
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So they were very instrumental, and they meaning as a group, as an organization, and everyone within the group, they were instrumental in telling me, hire that first employee. They're instrumental in saying, you must, get a bigger space, take the lead, whatever it is, whatever those big decisions were. I thought that SCORE was definitely there, and its advisors always took the time to check in on you, to see how you're doing, to follow up on. Like I had this huge lawsuit, not against me, but me with someone else who wasn't paying
Sure.
me, and it was this whole big thing. And we really used all those resources to figure out what the best strategy was, because you can sit there and you can think about it and you can think you're coming up with a good decision, but then there's a lot of different perspectives that
Right.
that are taken into account as well. So I'd say as a whole, that group and that organization and my forum has been instrumental
Yeah.
in my company growth.
Have you had the opportunity? I'm guessing you have. Are there any opportunities that stand out to you where you've been able to be the mentor rather than the mentee? But let me ask that question a different way. Young woman, 22, fresh out of USC, entrepreneurship program, or any school. I use USC because that's what you and I both know.
Mm-hmm.
Comes to you and asks for your guidance. Any thoughts that you've had, or has that experience happened? And what would be some of the early things that you would share with someone in that situation?
Yeah, I actually do a lot of that
Yeah.
with USC, with FIDM, and I think with a lot of people within the community, if they know that a young person, male or female, wants to start a business, then they'll say, "Hey, can you talk to them?"
Sure.
And really, um, I just want to hear what they're like. What are you trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
right? And then what do you think that entrepreneurship really is? Because I think that what most entrepreneurs are dealing with now, I don't think anyone generally wants to deal with it, right? It's not fun. It's very stressful.
I think it's
And
creating business ideas, though. I've heard of and
it
been a
is.
part of a couple of things in the last month that have
Mm-hmm.
been born out of necessity. That
Oh,
we're
sure.
seeing a lot of new entrepreneurs. You're right. A lot don't want to face the whole PPP and EIDL and all these other things now. But well, I have an idea. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. But along the lines of what you're saying, it's what do you think it's going to be like? Because if you think that it's going to be like, okay, you're hanging out on a yacht, sipping champagne after a couple of years of some hard work, 45 hours a
That's
week.
only weekends. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then there needs to be some reality checks there. And I like to mentor by actually like giving homework assignments.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, stop talking and start doing.
We'll start doing.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Start doing. So here are some things to do to show me that you're serious. And if you are serious, then this will progress you to that next step. We'd have to look at the person, what they're trying to do, but it would be relevant so that people don't like homework in general. But that's all business. I feel like entrepreneurs are professional problem solvers on a daily basis. There's this coming at you, this coming at you. I call them like problem slayers. Here's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. You got that sword and you're just fighting them off. Yeah.
There's, I feel like we just come up with solutions all the time, to keep the company moving, forward. So yeah, I find that that's very rewarding to do.
Yeah. What have you learned about yourself in these last 4 or 5 weeks in this crisis? What have you learned that maybe you're like, wow, I didn't really realize that I did that well, or maybe I don't do this well and I need to. Is there any lesson that you've picked up on that you've actually internalized or thought about in the last month or so?
Yeah, and I think I started to notice this a little bit more as I was getting a little bit older and just the company was
Almost
maturing.
42, right? Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
As the company was maturing, was, I'm very quick to pivot if there is something that's
Yeah,
not going right, whether it's a company problem, whether it's a HR issue, whatever it is, it's like, okay, take a step back and like let's move in a different direction so that we're not living in this space where it's not working. If it's not working, then let's do something about it, right?
yeah,
So in this case, like I was sharing with you, our retail business came to a complete standstill.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, how do we pivot? What do we do? For me, that means focusing on those avenues that we didn't nurture enough in the past years. And then also for me, it means like innovation, right? Like
hmm,
I'm in a really fun space where um, it's going to change as well. Sanitation is going to be the thing of the future
right,
for everything.
yeah,
So what does that mean for beauty and cosmetics? Well, it's going to look a lot different than it looks right now. So what can I think or do or create that really gets us ahead of the curve so that,
sure,
we're able to be like very proactive in the future
sure.
of beauty.
Yeah, and consumer confidence and trust, I think, it's already from the recession until now, we've become more of a trust economy than just a transactional economy. And I think that's
Right.
going to go up even further, especially in an industry where your product is touching your skin or touching any part of your body or you're consuming something. I'm sure that we're going to get a little bit more skeptical as consumers and cautious, is probably the better word, of the products that we use. So I'm sure that's something you're thinking about as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And look at that. See, I
You
said
hit
I
the
didn't know
nail on
anything
the
about
head.
cosmetics, and I know a little bit here anyway. So, um, what do you take you into a difficult, not difficult, but can be for some people to talk about? What are some of the struggles that you've had early on growing your business, and how would you say, what would you attribute the breakthroughs to?
Well, there's so many.
This is that interview question where they say, "Tell me your weaknesses, Manna," that everybody
We could be
hates.
here all day.
Yeah.
You
Oh, yeah,
know,
right.
one of the first, well, so my company's been self-funded. It still is self-funded,
Okay.
to this day. So, I come from very, very, very humble beginnings.
Hmm.
So there wasn't, a money tree in the back where I was
Right.
just like plucking,
Yeah.
money off this tree. So that was
That tree
challenging.
exists. You can send it to my house, by the way. Yeah.
I'll start
Yeah.
creating those trees and handing
There
them
you
out
go.
to everyone.
Yeah.
So that was difficult, access to capital. I still think it's access to capital is
Yeah.
difficult, even though my company is at a very different stage, right now. So trying to create a brand on a shoestring budget was very, very challenging.
Yeah.
I would say in that initial, I mean, that cash, it's kind of like an underlying theme, like that cash to create new products, that cash to bring in the right people to grow the company. Those were all very difficult things because in order to grow, you need more of everything,
Right.
right? And to get more of everything, that requires just more and more dollars. So, I had to be very, very creative in um, how I was using cash flow, how I was creating my own lines of credit, and being
Sure.
very, going back to that finance, background, being very creative in figuring out how to leverage those relationships. Beyond that, I just think I just made mistakes along the way that just, I think they're entrepreneurial mistakes where you take the risk, right?
Yeah.
You take the risk and then it doesn't pan out, so and then
Learning
I
moments, basically. Yeah.
learning moments for entrepreneurs are always so expensive,
Yeah, that's true.
so expensive. And it's, and I find it very funny when employees are like, well, we learned from that. I'm like, okay, we cannot learn all the time, like
Yeah,
we
it can't all be education. We got to
right,
sometimes actually succeed. Yeah.
right, yeah, like I had an issue where I was just starting to distribute into Europe, and I didn't have a compliance person on staff. So I didn't know that things had to be labeled a certain way. Things had to, there's all this stuff that needed to happen for an item to go into Europe. And I had never sent anything to Europe, and I didn't think there wasn't Google at the time, or what it was there, but it wasn't as like
it wasn't like it is now. It didn't know everything like it does now. Yeah.
Yeah. So fortunately, it was only something like 10,000 units of something, but it had to be relabeled in Europe. It had to, all of that stuff had to happen. So that was, again, another
so you have
learning
to find
lesson.
somebody there or go there yourself, and you're not going to fly there to relabel 10,000 units, right?
Right. Yeah. So we had to find someone there to do it. It was much more costly than it would have been had I just done it at the production facility.
Sure.
And so, but boy, did I learn that I needed to, what was required for labeling, just stuff like that, where you're just like, like you feel like you should have known better, but you wouldn't have known better unless you knew in the first place, So
no, that's good. Take me through the growth. Now, I know we talked earlier today about one of the things that you're proud of is going from 1 up to 6 different brands or different. I know you've gone through different stores, and now your tanning salon, and then now the Manna Kadar Beauty, and just walk us through the good stuff, the fun stuff, the growth stuff. Yeah.
The good stuff is still the fun stuff, and we still have tons of growth. And I know when we come out of this, our customers will still be there. So, so we started out with the first brand called Manna Kadar Cosmetics, and that is a prestige line of products. What that means for people that don't understand what prestige means,
I know what prestige means, but prestige products, cosmetics, not sure.
Yeah. It just means that it's this would be the product, let's just say in like a Nordstrom's, on a Nordstrom counter, versus, what's called, masstige or mass products, it would be more of like a Target, so, and at slightly different price points too.
A little bit.
Yeah. So we started out with Manna Kadar Cosmetics, which was prestige. And so we had such an overwhelming positive feedback for the product, except for the price points and except for the fact that it couldn't sit next to an Estee Lauder, because we didn't have the dollars to back up these huge marketing campaigns that they required of you, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, okay, well, can you create another brand that's like just more cost effective and that's more masstige or mass? And my answer, the salesperson in me, is you'll always hear me say, sure.
Yeah. Say yes and then figure out how, right?
I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. So then I figured out how to do it. So from that came Goddess Beauty, which is our mass line. And then from that, what's really nice about the beauty industry is, all of the buyers kind of sit next to each other in a room. So, the buyer's like, oh, Manna's products are doing good, to the Bath & Body buyer. The Bath & Body buyer says, hey, do you have any Bath & Body products? Can you create it?
Sure. Yes, I can do that.
Of course I can.
Start calling R&D, saying,
and I did. So by that time, I knew about manufacturing. So I knew what the capabilities were and what I could do. So then, the same story with the Bath & Body line came the men's line. So men's line is a Mason man after my son, Mason.
Cool.
He's like 2 and he has his own
2-year-old has his own cosmetics line.
His own line. So that's men's. It's men's like skincare and grooming. Yeah. And we have that line, and we have from the men's line came the pet line. From the pet line came the pregnancy line. So
what's your dog's name? Is that the pet name?
It's called Hot Dog or Hot Dog, and and he's the mascot on the items. So awesome. It was really cool to see the evolution of the brand, and I have to say it was really instrumental in the growth as well, because, if we just have one product to sell, you can only sell that one product, right?
Yeah.
To, let's say, one customer or one retailer. But now we're selling, 6 lines of products into that same company versus having to knock on like all of these doors and saying, hi, I'm Manna, and this is my, so it's just a lot you're building.
Which you've done plenty of, opening up the case and showing what you have. And I've seen those cases when you're getting started.
Oh, sure. Yeah. They're still in my car.
I'll bet.
I still have stuff in the trunk of my car. There is no shame. Like any salesperson will always have items in their purse or briefcase or whatever it is.
I got boxes of brochures in the back of my car at all times. Yeah. If I see a family business,
here you go.
Leave it on porch if they're not available to talk.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been great to see the growth. I mean, up until 4 or 5 weeks ago, we
Yeah.
were really poised like to grow like year over year about 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
So this is just another one of those challenges that we'll
Sure.
overcome, and we'll be doing a follow-up to this podcast saying, hey, what
Yeah.
happened
Remember
after
back in
the
2020? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'll be like, let's
Yeah.
not talk about that time.
Yeah, exactly. We all went into
Let's try to move
2020
past.
thinking this is going to be the year. I
Yeah,
wrote a blog this morning on the word pivot that's actually going to come
you
out
did.
before this airs, but this morning I wrote it for my newsletter for my clients. And when I think of pivot, being a sports guy, as you know, in basketball, you think of a player dribbling and then stopping, and then they have to leave one foot in the pivot in the spot, and they can turn the rest of their body, but that one foot has to stay in the pivot. So the analogy I use, and it just kind of came to me literally in a dream lesson, or I don't know, in a dream or middle of the night when I was thinking about what I was going to write, because I knew I had to write something today, was that hopefully we can keep that one foot pivoted where we were a month or two ago, because most of us were doing some, like yourself, we're doing some really awesome stuff, growing, expanding, profitable, successful, so many great things were going on. So I'm hoping that we can, in an analogous way, keep that one foot pivoted there while the rest of us is moving and reacting and dodging and doing everything we have to do to get through this. And then once this lifts and we're able to get back to work, and it's not going to be business as usual the way it was probably ever again. But
Sure.
the good news is it might be better. The success stories that came out of post 9/11 and obviously post recession have been tremendous. You're a success story that really has grown significantly since the recession. I know you started then, but you've really seen that growth. So I'm hoping that that pivot will be interpreted as, okay, I'm going to keep kind of one foot where I was as far as the pattern and the path I was on. Well, like I said, the rest of me is just reacting here and responding to the bullets coming my way, because we're doing so many great things and you're doing so many great things to be proud of. That's for sure. I know as your friend, I'm really
As are
proud of the growth
you,
I've seen.
Mr. Hart. As are
Well,
you.
I'm having fun. I kind of have that philosophy: if it ain't fun, it ain't getting done.
Mm-hmm.
And so several years ago, I realized, if I'm having fun at something, I might actually be better at that than the stuff that I hate doing.
Sure.
That's not rocket science, but I've figured that out. So what are you most proud of? If you look back, I mean, okay, take me to your family for a minute. What are you most proud of? How can you not go there? So I'm going to just take you to the family conversation. Then I'm going to come back to the career-wise, what you're most proud of. So tell me about your husband, your kids. Just, I haven't seen you in a long time, and I'd love to just everybody else can tune out for a minute. I'm just going to have a one-on-one with my buddy
Yeah.
Manna here for a minute.
Yeah. So my husband's great. I don't know if you've ever met him.
I don't think I've seen him, and I've looked at his LinkedIn. I know you guys are doing a webinar coming up, and you guys have,
Tomorrow.
yeah, tomorrow when we're airing, it'll already have happened, but yeah. But do
Yeah,
tell me
so
about it. When we're done, tell me, and I'll post it today too to get people up.
okay, cool. I will. So he's an entrepreneur as well, and they run an international technology company, and he has offices in all over Southeast Asia. So when we're talking about seeing this thing ahead of time, it was his staff
He was living it too, yeah.
I mean his staff was just everyone working from home, and to the take your temperature on a daily basis and all of that good stuff. So we really saw that happen. What's really nice about our relationship, fun fact, is we started dating in 2003. I was setting up mutual friends of ours, and we were just like the wing people that came along. Yeah. So we kept going on double dates together with our
for
friends.
The other couple.
Right. And then we kind of
nice.
separated on our own, and we're like, okay, maybe not. So then, then
awesome.
we decided to split at the time, and then we reconnected. We bumped into each other at a restaurant here in Orange County, and we said, let's get together, let's have a drink and just talk about business. And it was not a date. It was just like, hey,
I'll talk to Rob later and we'll hear his story.
Yeah. He will corroborate the story, because he is I used to date tall white dudes, and he's like, a dark-haired Persian guy, right? Same with him. He used to date tall blonde girls, and I'm not tall or blonde. So,
awesome.
So our foundations really started with our interest and our passion for business and entrepreneurship. And we just, one thing led to another, and the conversations just were so fun and stimulating. So I think that was where we kind of like, that's where it kind of grew back into, a relationship again. So
And your
we've been
business
together.
experiences were able to help one another as well. Hitting that one more
Oh, sure.
relationships need common things to talk about. And that's pretty awesome if you have something so major to talk about.
Well, especially during, every day, we're able to vent, to share with each other, and to help guide each other, or just be an ear to listen to, because it's difficult when you're running a company. Like, you can't complain to your employees, because it's
Sure.
not the right thing to do. So,
Yeah.
so
But to share with him, he's walking those same miles you are, just on a different path.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what's really cool is, because both of our businesses, there's a piece of it in Asia for both of us. We are able to like travel together and
Cool.
go off on our own ways during the day, and then come
Right.
back at night and have dinner together, and do that for a couple weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
So so he does his thing with business. I do my thing. I have our two little kiddos, almost 4 and 2.5, and they keep things
That's awesome.
They keep things very fun and vibrant. And this is such a great time right now to have with them. We were looking at our travel calendars at the beginning of the year, and it was just nuts. Like, we were trying to schedule just some family vacations, and we're like, when are we going to fit this in? Because we are going everywhere in the world for business.
Right.
And it has been such a wonderful time to just have an empty calendar, so to speak, as far as like having to be somewhere, and just enjoying the time with the kids. And
they're not quite at that age where you're worried about all the schoolwork and everything yet, which, I'm certainly there's work to do, and there's things where you want to be teaching them as parents would. But yeah, you have more of that time now to do that. That is pretty. I think that's one of the things that I've been noticing the most in all the people I'm talking to, and including here in my home. We have 2 grandsons and our daughter who live here with us, and my wife predominantly spends the time with our daughter, teaching the boys. I guess I'm the principal. I get to come down and what's going on down here. No, I get to have breakfast with them, and I get to, help out a little bit. But that family time that we're all getting, it's pretty remarkable. And one of the things I'm hoping, and answer how I would answer a question I asked you earlier about what will I do differently. I'm going to definitely try to make things more of a priority here at home. I think I have up to this point, but recognizing that, first of all, a lot of the things that I want to do with work, I can do right here. Laptop, phone, internet, everything makes it so virtually everything I can do here. And just to be more present in everything, and present in my one-on-one conversations with clients, in podcasts like we are now, with my family. I think we're more present than ever before, because we really have to be. We don't know what tomorrow looks like. And yesterday matters nothing at all, because today's nothing like yesterday.
Right.
So to live back behind today, it makes no sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I echo that sentiment where, I'm still coming to the office by myself, every day, and actually I'm working now.
You don't have your logo on your wall in your dining room? You're actually
but I'm able to just go, you know what, I didn't finish whatever it was. Yeah. I'll just get to it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right here. Leave the pen on the desk and go downstairs.
Yeah. And, put the phone down.
Right.
Like, nothing that important is happening. And if it is, well, it'll be there.
Yeah. Or more readily accessible too. I think we're all, this work-life balance it exists, but it's more of a rhythm now. It's like I wake up and am I working, or am I with the kids, or am I with my spouse, or am I on that personal call, or am I working again? And it all just kind of weaves together, which it's always kind of been that way for me in the last several years, but especially now, I think almost all of us are experiencing that. I reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you be on the podcast? And almost everybody's like, sure. When do you want to do it? Thursday at 2. How's that sound?
And so like, that works.
Yeah. I asked what you're most proud of and took you to your family. I guided it. Now let's come back to that name above your shoulder on the wall there. What are you most proud of with what you've been able to accomplish in your 10 years or so as an entrepreneur? Well, longer than that, but the most recent 10 years as an entrepreneur. She's thinking about lots of them, folks, and trying to come up with one.
It's there have been so many like defining moments, where like when we got into Ulta, that was a big deal. When we like all of those things that from day one you think you're going to do, and you don't recognize it's going to take so much longer than you anticipate. I'll say this is a combination of like family and business.
Awesome.
So So back to what we were talking about with Asian parents. My mom, like all the other, not all, like many
Many.
Asian
Yeah.
parents wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer, and you know, I like science, but not fun for me.
Yeah.
And so then she was like, go be a pharmacist, but I digress.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's, yeah.
so,
Science. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I did not go in the direction that she wanted me to go in. In fact, she was very, like, when I left banking, when I left corporate banking, she's like, why? It's a
Yeah.
great living. You get holidays. You're
Yeah.
paid well. Why are
Baker's
you,
hours. Yeah.
yeah, why are you leaving? And, you know, it wasn't that she was disappointed. It was more or less she was concerned for my like financial security.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she left another country to come to a foreign land where she
To
didn't
bring
speak
you
the
here to sell
language.
makeup. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And she doesn't wear makeup, right? So
Of course.
she
Yeah.
really doesn't understand that.
Yeah.
She's like, "Why are you doing this?" So it was a couple years ago, more than a couple years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, where I was being recognized for like one of our local magazines here for like a mom entrepreneur
Cool.
award recognition thing.
Yeah.
And so you can bring like two guests. I brought my mom and my husband along. And, you know, it was kind of it was like a pre-event thing where it's a small group of people and they had
Sure.
everyone go around. And she was like, Mom, Manna, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of the person you've become and your business and all of that good stuff. And, you know, Asians really don't like dole out praise.
Pride's
Like,
not a word. Yeah. It's
no,
used a
not
lot.
that
Sure.
often. And you know, it was so nice to know that she was proud of me, and that you know,
Yeah.
I've done something well. That, you know, all of her hard work and her sacrifice really worked out. You
Yeah.
know, and I was able to pay off her house and like get her first new car, and like, you know, all of
Awesome.
those little things that come with some of the hard work, and you know, that was very rewarding. So I would
Yeah.
say those are
So it
some
all
of the.
ties together. Yeah. And I think that's what I hear a lot with entrepreneurs and these family businesses I work with too. Really, that blending of the personal and the business really comes together.
Yeah,
So it's awesome when you can use you're this great story of someone who used the education and experiences, good and bad, that happened in your life leading up to transitioning to coming here to starting a business, getting your degree, going into finance, and then starting your company. And your mom can look at that and say, wow, the lessons that she learned as a child are the lessons that she's implementing in her life now. Must be a
sure.
thrill for her to see your kids, your grandma.
It really is, because I told her the longest time I wasn't having any children. So
Last conversation I think I had with you, you were saying the same thing. That's how long it's been since I've seen you.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, it definitely has been
been
too
a
long.
while.
But
Yeah,
yeah, so she's over the moon because I'm an only child. So like that was her only opportunity to ever
that's
have
right. It's you or no
children.
one. Yeah,
Yeah. So she's thrilled. You know, I thought that she would be really, really strict like she was with me. And I don't recognize the
yeah.
person
Oh yeah,
she is. Like she's, you know, I'm like, Mom, you always told me no. And like she tells them yes. She's like, I don't know. It's very difficult for me to
yeah.
tell them no. So she's a pushover and she's having a great time and she's enjoying herself, as she should.
Pushover is synonymous with grandparent, by the way, just so you
Mhm.
know. Yeah, I've been a grandpa now for 8 years, and we have 7 boys, 7 grandsons, and it's really fun to be able to just spoil them. You know, a friend of mine who became a grandpa about the same time I did, we were talking one day about what's the difference between being a grandparent and a parent? Why is this so much easier in a lot of ways? And he hit it on the head. And I've thought about this often since. And he says, you have all of the love and none of the responsibility and none of the worry. We
Mhm.
still worry. I still want the best for my grandsons, but that's really my kids' job to
Right.
take
You've
care
done
of
your
them.
job already.
Yeah, I'm still doing my job as a dad. Will always be a dad, but yeah, you know, love them, spoil them, sugar them up, and then hand them back to their parents. I think in this of the 7 boys, I've probably changed about maybe 7 diapers in 8 years, and I've been around them when they've needed it. It's like, here you
Yeah.
go, here's your son. I'll be
Yep.
over there.
Yep. You've
Watch the
changed
big
plenty of
screen.
diapers, I'm sure,
Yeah,
in your day.
bring him back to me, and we'll keep watching the Dodger game after
Yep.
you got to do with them. So assuming that we turn the corner on this stay at home thing that we're in right now, I hate to call it just stay home thing, but everybody's talking about it. And there's all these different names for it.
Shelter in place,
The shelter in place, the
quarantine.
quarantine, whatever we want to call it. When we get past that and you're back to, again, I said that's not really business as usual, but you know, we're not talking about COVID virus every day. we're thriving again in business. What's next? What's that big thing you were looking forward to that you hope to get back to? And then I have one last question for you that I ask everybody at the end.
We were we were in such a huge growth trajectory, and I still think it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting back to that, but having a more calculated approach on how we're going to do it.
Sure.
Right before this happened, we were really looking to expand our team. Going back to what I said earlier, some of those mistakes that I'm making were because, I wasn't an expert in, FDA guidelines or whatever it is, labeling, regulations. So getting the right people in place to do all the things that they need to do to propel the company forward, so I can focus on doing the things that I do best, which is creating products and sales, and staying in my lane and letting everyone else do their thing so that they can stay in, or they can help the company thrive and all grow together. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. And since we're putting all of these new things in place from a revenue perspective, really seeing a lot of this level out a bit, having more like 25, 25, 25, 25 versus like 75.
Multiple revenue streams instead of one big river and a little trickle.
Right. Yeah. So I think, prior to this, we were also looking to purchase a commercial building as well. Nice. I think that the opportunities to purchase will be more abundant and probably at a much better price. Yeah. So that could be potentially something positive that comes out of this. So yeah, and who knows what the future holds.
So how does the From the Heart audience reach you if they want to, if a man wants to go on and buy cosmetics for his wife, or a woman wants to do some shopping for herself right now, since she can't go into Ulta or some of these other brick and mortar that we've talked about? How do they reach you right now? How do they reach you on your social media, and how do they purchase your products?
Sure. Well, Ulta actually is still going from an online perspective, so they can go to ulta.com and type in the name and purchase products there. But you can always go to our website, mannakadarcosmetics.com. And then we are coming out with some really fun content on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So you can find us at Manna Kadar Beauty on all of those. And we're coming up with everything from like quarantine makeup to how to look good in front of a camera, doing Zoom calls, just fun stuff that is just really lifestyle based.
That was a question. I reached out to our friend Kevin D. Allen. Love for Kevin.
Yep.
Kevin and I grew up together, known each other since our first year of high school. And you and Kevin are friends. I sent him a text this morning. Hey, I'm interviewing our friend Manna today. What should I ask? And the first place he went was, ask her, how do we prepare more for being camera ready for these Zoom things? Because, I'll be on a call tomorrow in a baseball cap and a USC or Cal State Fullerton or Dodger sweatshirt. And we're going to have a conference coming up in May, one that I normally do in person in June, and we're going to be in Toronto. And part of what we do is we play games. We'll play different card games or just, fun evening games with adults. I'll just leave it at that point. But we obviously can't do that because we're going to be doing that meeting on Zoom.
Sure.
So one of the games we thought about is what's everybody wearing under the camera? Because right now, I got the shirt on. I'm just in shorts and a t-shirt, usually. But going back to Kevin's question, what advice do you have for those of us who are living on Zoom right now to be, as he put it, camera ready? I mean, you look great, and I'm as cleaned up as I've been in a month, but what suggestions
you look great, Ed. Well, actually, I do have a video up on our YouTube, Instagram, for how to literally how to set up your camera, what to do, what to wear. So it's a little bit more in depth. I think one of the biggest things anyone should keep in mind is, who's your audience? Mm-hmm. Who are you, and who are you in relation to this audience, right? So if you are an attorney, please look like how an attorney should look, and represent yourself professionally in front of your client. There's a lot of talk right now about, just be comfy, be as you are, quarantine life, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. I get it. If you're doing your own thing on your own time, yes, be comfortable, but if it's a professional phone call, then you should be professional. For example, I own a cosmetics company.
Yeah.
What if I had no cosmetics on?
Right.
My hair is just a mess. I'm in sweats, and it's just not a good representation for someone who owns a cosmetics company, right? So you need to embody what you are trying to show or portray.
The image that you
To
want
your
people to
audience.
have of you. Yeah.
Yeah,
This may be the
and
only
I
impression somebody gets. A lot of people will watch today and see you for the first time, or listen and hear you for the first time.
sure.
So, yeah.
I'll give you an example of how this went wrong for
Hmm.
someone. So we still are looking into an ERP system. So this is a very expensive system that you implement for companies into like six figures, right? An investment into the company. So someone
Sure.
was doing, was it a Zoom, similar to a Zoom call where you saw the person and they took over the screen and they were showing you what they could
Yeah.
do. And so I was watching the presentation, it's an accounting thing, and I see the guy in the corner and he's wearing a sweatshirt, like a hoodie, like sweatshirt,
Yeah.
and I think a cap. I may be making up the cap part. Anyways, he was wearing a sweatshirt, and I'm thinking, okay, like this guy doesn't look like he knows what he's talking about, and I am
Yeah.
not going to invest six figures with this dude. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Not
look
that he had to
legit to
put on
me.
a suit and tie, but at least look presentable, right?
Look, he
Yeah.
could wear shorts
Yeah.
underneath and just
Yeah.
like wear a collar shirt. What, he's supposed to be in tech, and I know techie guys are a little bit more open-minded, but for me, it just was not what I didn't
Yeah.
feel comfortable investing in that guy. Let's put it that way, in his
Yeah.
company. So that's where, I mean, the guy unfortunately I couldn't get past it.
Sure.
I
No,
couldn't
first
get past
impressions.
it.
I in the early 90s, I was traveling a lot on business, and I would collect business cards from people that I met on a plane or in a hotel or waiting in an airport. And I have this process now I still follow. Like if I were meeting you and we had a conversation somewhere and you gave me your card, in the next quiet moment I have, whether it's over a cup of coffee or back in my hotel room or back home or on the plane, I'd flip it over, and on the back I would just write a few things about you that I remembered, things, maybe something I learned, mostly what was my first impression, because you didn't have a lengthy conversation and the business card only gives you a little bit of writing space. But that led to a book that I've been working on literally for 29 years. Wow. I should probably finish this for 20
Hey,
plus
it's a
years.
good time to finish the book.
Yeah, I have time now, right? That's what we're preaching here. But the idea of the book and the working title is First Impressions, the art of getting to know people. And we get that first impression of somebody. And
Yeah.
it's not that we're always right, but we're usually right with that
Yeah.
first impression.
So other than like, attire, I would say, like how your background, like what is your background?
Yeah, it's a business thing, and I have mostly business books behind me. This is my
Yeah.
library at home, part of it anyway. But yeah.
Yeah. So, be cognizant of like, make sure there isn't like laundry or,
Yeah,
just funky stuff. Like find a space that you can dedicate to just, do your
sure.
calls. So that area always stays tidy. And I know there's kids, there's pets and
Yeah,
there's spouses, and you can't control all that, but try to control, your 10 by 10 space and have it set up so that if that big important customer calls, your boss calls, or whatever it is, please look like, they
yeah,
should still employ you, or your customers should still take you seriously. Some other things are, I would say like lighting, like we were talking about earlier,
sure.
just make sure you have the right lighting so that people can see you properly. Always like try to smile,
Yeah.
try to seem happy. And
Yeah, if you're
I
not
know
enjoying
it's,
yourself, why should I enjoy you, right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And I think a smile is infectious, and,
yeah.
try to have a good attitude about things. And
I'm not going to say steal, but I'm going to borrow some of your ideas from your Instagram and so forth and share them with my clients, because that's
do
one of
it.
the topics that comes up all the time is how to do these calls. Not that from the technology standpoint, which does come up, how do I do breakout rooms and how do I put a company logo on and things. And those are things we talk about too. But really more importantly, I've been on calls with 30 or 40 people, and it looks like most get it and it looks like a few don't. And so you don't want to be that banker, and I haven't had that experience, but the banker who's, in the sweats with the, nasty lettering or pictures or something on it,
Sure.
obviously. Wear it on your house all day long. I don't care, but if you're gonna be on camera, maybe change.
Well, I would say like, the camera angle, like,
Mm-hmm.
in my video, there's a mirror in the back of me, and I was sharing like how I had to adjust the chair, like a higher chair, because if I was in the same chair that I was in, you would see a ring light and you would see like
Oh,
the camera, and it's
yeah,
distracting, right? So
sure.
you want to focus on like the person and
Yeah,
not like everything else that's going on around them.
makes sense.
So yeah, and just,
Appreciate that. Zoom coaching from Manna Kadar, part of your new product line once we, yeah, very good. Well, we are getting to a point where I should probably ask you my final question. You know, my last name is Hart. Name of the podcast is From the Heart. And there's a lot of meanings for why I chose that name. But really, the number one meaning, I wouldn't call it that if it wasn't my name, obviously. But the number one thing that I want to get to and make sure that I have a chance for all of my guests to share at the end of every podcast, I will just ask you the question, Manna Kadar, what's in your heart?
gratitude. Um, I am so grateful to have you as a friend. And during this time, you know, I find that I mean, I'm just grateful for everything that we have right now, you know, friendships with um, not only yourself, but everyone around us in our circle, grateful for our health, grateful that we live in this place where, you know, we can still feel safe and have access to um, our essentials that we need.
Yeah.
And we can still, you know, keep our businesses going and know that we will come out of this okay and carry on, you know, at the end of this. So it's really, you know, this is such a, it's a challenging time, but I think it's been a really great time for me to reflect on all of the abundant opportunities and people that I have in my life.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I love that answer. I can't add to that. So I'm just going to simply say thank you for spending time with me today. Thanks for reconnecting. And if we don't get a chance to reconnect in person again in the near future because of all of this, let's at least do this again. If nothing else, just a Zoom conversation.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, Manna.